We're gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Yes, it is time once again that we begin another fascinating round here. Welcome everybody to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing today? Because I certainly am fine. I am definitely doing well. Had a really nice weekend, and now, well, I guess, also, we're already at a good start. Thank you, GordonZX55 for the subscription right over there. Oh, and also, Daniel, thank you so much for that additional subscription there. All right, anyways, as I was saying, today we got a really interesting episode because, let's just say this is not going to be the kind that will be for capitalist lovers. This will be an episode in which I will be calling out plenty of multi-billion-dollar corporations. And maybe the things I will say will definitely be upsetting to those capitalist fanboys, considering that we are going to be discussing about representation, union, fair wages. But don't worry though, we still got other stuff as well that we will be discussing about upcoming projects as well. But the major stories that we will be discussing, we're gonna get down into some serious business. So, with all that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, are you all prepared for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? Well, let's see now. Yes. Okay, that's great. We are seeing some. All right, it's already mounting up. It's already getting good. That's great to see. So, with that said, it is now time that we shall get things started. And with our first story that we have for you for today, we actually have... I almost forgot about something. Just one quick little thing. Considering that the war on Ukraine is still going on, I just want to have a bit of a quick plug to mention about the organization that I have talked about yesterday, a place where you can go and donate. Just another quick shout out regarding the Ukrainian Crisis Relief Fund that is on globalgiving.org. So if you guys have yet to do so, you can actually go and show your support, which as I'm recording this right now, they have raised over $6.6 million, and I believe that's in US dollars from more than 47,000 donors. And from there, I see, let's see. Are people starting a hype train? Or anyways, I don't know. Oh wow, I think someone is actually starting a hype train. But anyways, as I was saying, yes, if you want to go and show your support to the Ukrainian people with what's currently going on with the war that is starting by Putin, well, that started by Putin and his Russian army, then you could do so here. Also, I just want to have a bit of a quick mention before I do begin, because there are some people, like just a handful of people, but there have been a few on social media that try to like call me out or something. It was like, well, did you support AniMat? Did you go and support on this? Did you give a donation? And I mean, like, I wasn't really gonna go out of my way to show my to show my donation, but if you guys desperately need legitimate proof or like just to like shut those people up, honestly, yes, I have made a donation. This is my receipt. I did have to censor the personal information here, but yes, I did go and donate $40 of my money for the Ukrainian Crisis Relief Fund. So if you guys need proof, if you guys need receipts that I have personally donated myself to this organization, to this donation campaign, here's the receipt right over here. So just thought I would go and begin with this, considering that it is still going on. So please go and show your support to the people of Ukraine during this time. All right, so now that I got that done, let's actually get into the story that I wanted to go and talk about, which is supposed to be something that people should be excited about. Like, when you hear about this, you'd think this would be a moment that everybody would be excited about, especially when the show just came out a few weeks ago, and already people are enjoying it. I myself am also really enjoying this series. But to everyone's surprise, or to Netflix's surprise, they've received a lot of backlash from the announcement, and it may not be what you necessarily think. So, with that said, let's go and start this story off by talking about Cuphead. Yes, Netflix, along with the maker of the video games, Studio MDHR, they have revealed that Cuphead is actually going to be coming back for a season 2. Yes, considering the popularity of the Cuphead show that happened during mid-February, they are indeed going to be coming back, and a lot sooner than you may think, because they revealed that this season 2 is actually going to be coming out this summer, believe it or not. Yes, in summer 2022. That's what Studio MDHR even confirmed, that it's official. More heartfelt hijinks and hilarity awaits in season 2 of the Cuphead show, debuting summer 2022 exclusively on Netflix. Now, this is a pretty beloved show so far. Animation fans are loving it. Even people in the animation industry are loving it. A lot of people are very much loving it. And it has already gotten up to like the top 10 most watched Netflix shows right now. So the big question is, from here, why is it that people would be so upset about it? What would be the backlash after this kind of announcement? Well, truth be told, this is not necessarily all that true. This is not really a season 2 per se. Because the truth is, behind the scenes, when the animators were working on the Cuphead show, they actually made one full season. And when I say a full season, I don't mean what we have right now on Netflix. I mean the kind of full season that you would regularly get on TV shows. Like the kind that would be between 22 to 26 episodes that would each be 22 minutes long. Like that amount of content has already been done. That's what I mean by a full season. But Netflix has already told them that they're not going to go and drop all those episodes in one big shot on Netflix. They told them that instead, they're going to go and release them in drops. And with the content that they actually have enough for 3 different drops. What we have on Netflix right now, that is season 1, or that is drop 1, actually. This season 2 that they have announced is actually going to be drop 2, not necessarily a real season 2. And drop 3, which I could probably guess will probably arrive either at the end of this year or maybe at the beginning of 2023, that is going to be drop 3. So, okay, basically it seems like a bit of a mistranslation. Why would that be so upsetting? Why would people be so pissed about this? Well, the thing is, if this really was a season 2, that would mean that Netflix should have paid their animators a lot more than they already have. If you need the proof, then I actually have something right over here. And I actually got this from the Animation Union, the Animation Guild, from their website. And when it comes to the deal that they have with streaming services such as Netflix, they actually have something called Side Letter N. And Side Letter N is their big negotiation of what they have with streaming services in order to produce animated content for them, specifically for animated shows even. And to go a little more into details about what they are, I'll read from my source here directly on the Animation Guild's website. Side Letter N is a part of our bargaining agreement with unionized studios that addresses new media, which some called streaming media work. When it was implemented in 2009, Side Letter N provides freely negotiable terms and conditions for new media. It wasn't until 2015 that Side Letter N, wage minimums, and improved working conditions were included in the Collective Bargaining Agreement, or CBA. Then adjusting the budget tier definition in 2018 broadens the scope of productions that had to abide by these improved terms. And right at the bottom of all this, they actually have a list or like different tiers of different budgets of like depending on what the show would be. So they got the Master CBA, or the Master Collective Bargaining Agreement. That one is usually the standard that they would have for television shows that would air on Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon and stuff like that. So that is usually the standard that they would go. And then for streaming shows, there is high budget tier 1, which is for big budgeted productions. There is high budgeted tier 2, which is which is like somewhere in the middle. It's not for low budgets, but it's not high budgets either. And then you got not high budgets, which is for low budgets. In fact, there is actually this whole chart for a TV show with specific episodes. Usually high budget tier 1 would be somewhere like $1.5 million for each episode. High budget tier 2, each episode would either cost $550,000 or less than $1.5 million. And then not low budget are considered those that each episode would cost less than $550,000. Now, usually when it comes to the Cuphead Show and most animated series that you would find on streaming services such as Netflix, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon, or even HBO Max, Peacock, and all those streaming services, usually they would be in high budget tier 2. That would be in the category that they would go. Somewhere that is like mid-budget per se. And you will see there is a big stark difference between the wages and how much the animators would get paid in terms of when working on a season 1 and when working on a season 2. So let me go and read you here of what the wages are for high budget tier 2. Wage minimums are 15% lower than the basic agreement for season 1 and 3% lower wage minimums for season 2 and 3, and then revert to the CBA. And as for vacation and holidays, they're both pretty much the same thing, so I won't be reading it twice, but just to clarify on that, for season 1, employers are not required to pay employees for unused vacations. Season 2 and season 3, employers are required to pay half the rate of the CBA. Season 4 and beyond, the full amount is owed. So already you can see here that there is a major difference. Like I said before, there is a stark difference between how much these streaming services would have to pay in terms of working on a season 1 and working on a season 2. Even the wage itself, already you can tell the difference between paying animators for a season 1 and paying animators for a season 2. That is a full-on 12% difference. That's not a very insignificant number. That is actually a pretty big difference, especially when you're talking about salaries and payments. So if Netflix was true to the fact that they were working on 3 different seasons, then at that point, animators would actually have the right to ask for a 12% raise on their salary, because that's what the unions demanded them to. But in this case here, streaming services have now found a loophole to really go and exploit, because technically there are no rules regarding what constitutes as a full season, or if they have to go and fully write down what truly is considered to be a season. Which in the case of Netflix, what they have done is that instead of actually paying their employees for 3 seasons worth of content, they asked them to go and directly work into one massive season, and then afterwards, Netflix could go and split those seasons up in split that season up into 3, so that they could release them individually and give out the illusion that the show is going extremely well and that they are releasing brand new seasons to keep the hype go for a long time, instead of just releasing it in one batch where the moment of fame that it has would be pretty quick. They decided to go and make it long enough that could span even throughout the whole year by this kind of separation. And that way, they have 3 seasons worth of content, but they only have to pay their animators for 1 season worth. So because of that kind of trick, Netflix has managed to save at least 12% on the grand majority of the budget on the Cuphead Show because they use this kind of loophole. And this is not even to mention about they don't have to pay for any vacations or for any holidays or anything like that. They don't have to go and pay them for it. So yeah, like Netflix has definitely saved a whole bunch for this because of this exploitative loophole. And this is exactly why you've probably seen on social media, especially on Twitter, where you see a lot of animators and people working on the industry bringing back the hashtag New Deal for Animation, meaning that they demand a massive update within the Animation Guild so that animators can be treated more fairly, that streaming services such as Netflix could treat them more honestly in terms of the amount of content that they're actually working on, and that they would be paid their true fair share. Because the sad truth is, this isn't the only instance that this has actually occurred. For a few years now, there have been studios that know about this loophole and they have been exploiting it. And probably the most guilty studio to have done so, more so than Netflix, is actually Warner Brothers, unfortunately. Because with Warner Brothers, they have really exploited this to a fault. And like from time and time again, they knew exactly how to use this and really crank out a lot of content where they just tell their animators that they're just working on 1 season's worth, but in actuality, they are supplying like a whole bunch of different seasons, but they just only have to pay what constitutes as 1 season's worth, or just like a season 1's worth per se. And there are a few examples, one of which being Jellystone. I love Jellystone. That show was just absolutely hilarious. I understand the criticisms of how the characters are nothing like their original counterparts when Bill Hanna and Joe Barbera created them, but on its own, it is a great series. And just recently, there have been reports that state that there is going to be a Jellystone Season 2 that is coming soon to HBO Max. But is that actually the case? Sadly, no. Because the truth of the matter is that Season 2 is actually just a drop 2. That's work that has already been done by the animators back when they were working on their entire Season 1. And probably like the biggest example of this has to be the Looney Tunes cartoons. We all remember the Looney Tunes cartoons on HBO Max, that we've all had a great time with them, and especially how it is such a great throwback to the classic Looney Tunes cartoons, even back to like the Tex Avery and the Bob Clampett days. And the original concept of it all, back when it all started, is that it was originally just a program where they would make a grand total of 1,000 minutes worth of content to create all those cartoons. That's basically the whole point of it. But what ended up happening is that Warner Brothers ended up with so much content that they decided to go and ultimately split it up into different seasons, which is why we got Looney Tunes cartoons Season 2, Season 3, and so on and so forth. But the truth is, they all, like the people who worked at Warner Brothers Animation, they made all that in one big session. Like they spent over 2 years working on all those cartoons in one big shot. However, because that they worked on all that one big shot, they were only paid for a season's one's worth of content, not working on something like a Season 2 or a Season 3 or anything like that. All that 1,000 minutes technically constitutes as just one season during production, but when Warner Brothers had their hands on it, they decided to go and exploit it and just separate it into pieces so that they could say that, oh, we're bringing season 1. Oh, now here's season 2. Oh, now here is season 3. And the whole point of all this is that, unfortunately, streaming services, considering the fact that it is still considered new media per se, and the rules about it, like, they could still be pretty loose. That's why we see streaming services really getting away with so much of this kind of behavior, so much of these bad practices, and really taking advantage of these animators, mainly because they just found a loophole where technically, yeah, they're kind of like cheating animators out of their money, but they're technically not really breaking any rules because, according to the Animation Guild, there is no like set rule on what should constitute as a season. Because technically, you could just make one massive season, and then you could just say, like, hand it over to the marketing team, let them split it up into different pieces, and they'll say if this is a season 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever. But they still managed to save a lot, like over 12% of the budget, just because they just said that it is season 1 and that they built the entirety of it as a season 1. This isn't like television where there have been set of rules that have been established over the decades. Like, I don't even think that it's even been, like, probably has been, but I'm not even sure if it's been over a decade that streaming services have fully been in the mainstream. Like, probably it's been over a decade for Netflix, but in terms of the streaming wars and stuff like that, that's still brand new. That's still only a few years old. Like, the streaming wars is debatably almost as old as the pandemic right now. And that is why, because of like these new things, they are less likely to have like these fully set and established rules. Usually these things would have to go and like be established through trial and error. And unfortunately, there are still animators out there that get the lower end of the stick, such as those who have worked on either the Looney Tunes cartoons or right now from what we have been seeing in the Cuphead Show. And thus, why we are seeing right now this entire campaign for New Deal for Animation. And especially, like, considering how Cuphead is used as a prominent example for this case, or it is the latest example of this case, like, a big part of it actually does come from the fact that the show is currently highly beloved, that people are really enjoying it, and that it does such a great job doing its mission to be this grand tribute of the golden age of cartoons, like back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and so on and so forth. Or just those 3 periods, actually. That it's such a big homage to that period of animation, and a lot of people are really enjoying it. A lot of people admire the work of the animation that has been done, and of course that leads to the admiration of the people behind the scenes, of the actors who have been working on it. And so seeing that Netflix is pretty much cheating them out of their money, well, that is kind of disappointing to see that they would be exploiting the animators in order to go and save a few bucks on the budget, especially when all that hard work was all in place and it was all done on that series. Like, yeah, they definitely deserve to have like their fair share of the compensation. Like, what they are due, they should be due. And honestly, right now, that seems to be the big focus about New Deal for Animation. And especially nowadays, when it seems that when it comes to animated shows and when it comes to series in general, while there are still some that are being done for television directly, like for Cartoon Network and for Nickelodeon, there's a lot more that is being produced on streaming services such as Netflix, such as Disney Plus, such as HBO Max, and so on and so forth, because, well, technically, if you use the exploits right, it's actually a lot cheaper to do it on those streaming services, much more than it would be to do it for television. And that's where we are right now. We are hoping that with this whole campaign of New Deal for Animation, that animators can be treated fairly and that the standards for producing animated shows on Netflix or even animated movies would be the same as it is for either television or for theaters, because right now, with how the Animation Guild is built right now, I mean, it's great that there is a union for animation in the first place, but as you can clearly see, it is still pretty flawed. If the studios and executives can find a way to like discover loopholes and that they could cheat animators out of their money so that they could still keep a few in their own pocket, that's when you know that there is a problem. So this is why this is a major shout out in regards to New Deal for Animation. It's to point out the problems that are within the system, and especially what is within the union, where we need to have these massive revisions so that they could be paid a lot better. And this is not even to mention the fact that right now, animated content is the most watched content on streaming services right now. Like, if we are talking about streaming and the stuff that are considered to be the most viewed, animation is just dominating both in movies and on television. And even right now, I'm sure that the majority of content that's on Netflix right now, the stuff that is the most watched, is animation content. Like, I know we've talked about in the past, like a few months ago, the New Deal for Animation was about having animation workers be paid equally as much as live action workers, such as writers. But I mean, like, that's kind of like a separate issue in itself. That's kind of like another thing. But in regards to what we are talking about right now, that's a different problem, but it still resonates the same way. And I mean, like, you could tell that people in the animation industry, they are having massive difficulties in terms of having their fair share of money. And I mean, on a side note, I would just like to add that this is also the reason why we saw momentarily that John DiMaggio refused to come back as Bender for Hulu's Futurama reboot. Now, just recently, it has actually been announced that John DiMaggio did actually agree to come back as Bender, but the whole point of it, again, is regarding wages. And that people such as, and it's not just for John DiMaggio, but it's also for people like Billy West, Maurice LaMarche, Phil LaMarr, and all those voice actors, that they should be paid a lot more if they are going to be reprising their roles to play such iconic characters such as Fry, Bender, and all those guys. So really, the fine line here is that in recent years, we have seen how animation in general has really been exploited by studios in order for them to create their content, despite the fact that animation right now is the dominant force in entertainment, especially in streaming. And this is why it's so important to talk about New Deal for Animation. This is to discuss about why is it animators deserve to have their fair share? Because, well, they are creating content that is currently much more popular than the live action stuff that they would be producing. So that's pretty much my whole ordeal on New Deal for Animation and the whole scenario that's been going on with the Cuphead show. And I do hope in the future that maybe something can be resolved, or that this issue can be highlighted, and that the Animation Guild should go and immediately take action and do something about this. I mean, we don't know what the future holds. We don't know if this is something that could be easy or difficult for the Animation Guild to go and do, but hopefully revisions should be done soon. Okay, so with that said, let us now go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you all personally feel about Cuphead Season 2 and this loophole that streaming services such as Netflix and studios like Warner Brothers are currently exploiting? Let me know what you all think on this. Okay. Let's see. That situation kind of makes me think of Monster Girl Doctor, a 12-episode anime series based on a light novel comprised of 70+ chapters and only covers the first 20 parts. Even if what you create doesn't end up as the big surprise you hope for, doesn't mean you have to give it up on it. That MGD series actually has quite a large fan base. I don't have details of how much the animators were paid for that series. Sorry, guys. Yeah, then again, that's another issue altogether. Like, for anime and how the Japanese are being treated when making their animated content, oh boy, like that's debatably even worse than what we are seeing right now in North America. Like, that's a whole other issue right there. I can guarantee you, like, those people making Monster Girl Doctor, maybe not as well as like, how they're doing is probably not as well as the animators of Cuphead. I'm just saying. All right, let's see here. I'll make no mistake that I love the first season of the Cuphead Show, and I'm all down for more content. But this practice here is, for lack of a better term, scummy. It just seems like an excuse to pay the animators less, which is not at all what they deserve. I'm still gonna watch it, but still, foul play, Netflix. All I say now, to paraphrase the rapscallion Cup himself, that's for you, Ted Sarandos, and you know what for. Oh yeah, and I mean, that's kind of the sad thing, is that as an animation fan myself, and as someone who is really enjoying Cuphead so far, unfortunately, like, yeah, I mean, I am going to watch more Cuphead. I am going to watch the drop 2 of it. But I mean, still, like, it does leave a bit of a bad taste in my mouth knowing that technically they're presenting us something that they claim to be a season 2, but we know is just one part of a season 1 that the animators have already done, like last year or even 2 years ago. Let's see what else we got here. Any other comments? When I was a kid, I always dreamt of working in the animation industry, either as an animator or voice actor. I've been practicing on my YouTube channel. They aren't great, but I'm quite proud of them. But knowing how bad the animation industry has been treated recently, I don't think I'm ready to step onto the doorstep. It also kind of reminds me of how the Owl House got screwed by Disney because they said it didn't fit the Disney brand. I haven't seen Cuphead yet, but I heard it's good. Yeah, well, the thing is, though, is that I'm not trying to go and discourage anybody from pursuing their dreams. If you want to work in the animation industry, go right ahead. There's nobody that's stopping you at this point. I know there are going to be these kinds of obstacles that you have to face. But if you still want to go and follow your passion, go ahead and do so. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, there are some downsides to it, but then again, with every dream and with every passion that you have, there's going to be a downside to everything. Even me right now, working on my YouTube channel or even doing this podcast, like, I know there are going to be those ups and downs, but do I personally enjoy doing them? Of course. So that's why I don't want to do this thing to discourage people from becoming animators. If you want to be an animator, then go ahead and do so. But if you want to be an animator, then I highly recommend that you go and participate on New Deal for Animation, because if you want to step into the industry, you want to make sure that you step into the industry, like, in better conditions than how things are right now, so that future generations of animators, such as yourself, can actually go and work on, like, whatever project that you enjoy working on and actually be treated fairly for it. So that's just my little piece that I want to say about that. Let's see whatever comments. So basically, an animated series is ordered on for a full season, and the network/streaming service pays for only a season 1 and then splits the season 1 into 2 or 3 seasons. Freaking cheapskates. That is crappy. F them, and I hope enough people scream to make them change. These people are doing what they love and working extremely hard. Pay them for what they are worth. Yeah, I understand that, and that's why we need to demand for, like, yeah, it will definitely help that if we call out those studios such as Warner Brothers or Netflix and all those studios making these kinds of scummy practices. Like, it would definitely be helpful. But also, we need to go and ask the Animation Guild to actually really step up their game and actually go and make those revisions. Make sure that you close off these loopholes so that none of these executives can go and exploit them. Let's see what else we have. Why While I do like what I've seen so far with the Cuphead show, this news I'm hearing about feels sad. I do hope there are some changes that need to be made soon and that the animators can be treated fairly. I know Mike Rianda has been campaigning over on Twitter, so I hope there are some changes soon. Yeah, and it's not just him. I also saw Craig McCracken has also commented on this and that he felt very disappointed about the industry, about how, like, nowadays, considering that he has become like the animation veteran that we know him today, a big part of it is not because of the conditions of how they were. Like, he even mentioned that, like, even in his early days when working on the Powerpuff Girls, the conditions of how animators are treated now are not like how they were back then. Like, people working on the Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab and stuff like that were treated much better than how they are right now. So yeah, there are some prominent people that are also advocating for New Deal for animation, and I definitely do applaud people like Craig and especially Mike Rianda for actually helping out in this campaign. The more that we have in terms of like prominent supporters of New Deal for animation, the better. All right, I'll read one more comment before we move on to our next one. Let's see. If you want to work in the animation industry, there's no better era in its history to just do it yourself and be indie. You know, that comment is not wrong. Like, why not just start off on your own? You could start off by working on your own content and you could just post it on YouTube or on social media and you could really go from there. Case in point, look at Vivzy Pop, how she started with just making little cartoons on YouTube and then significantly grew from there, where now some of the biggest and most talked about animated shows are Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel. So there is that, definitely. Like, even if like you want to start working in animation, you don't have to start by immediately working at a major studio. You could just start it yourself and then you can learn to like really grow from there. So there is that. So yeah, I know that's a major piece to go and talk about, but considering how it is a prominent animation issue, yeah, I just, it needed to be said, of course. All right, so moving on down to our next story that we have here, we actually got a trailer, and this is a trailer that just came out. And speaking of Netflix, actually, this is going to be the next animated Netflix movie. And this is actually going to be one in which the style is very interesting. Not many people know about the movies made by this particular guy or the animated movies made by this guy, but you will see that with this one, it looks interesting. I will say that. So with that said, let's go ahead and check out the trailer for the upcoming Netflix movie, Apollo 10.5, A Space Age Childhood.
Where's our kid?
Mission? For what?
We accidentally built the lunar module. A little too small.
How'd that happen?
Listen, are you good at math?
Yeah.
Did you get a perfect 100 on every test?
No.
Okay. We need a kid like you to test this accidentally smaller version on the lunar surface and soon.
Stan, you're our only hope.
Okay.
Great.
Let's forget about all this for now. We'll come back to this part later. First, let me tell you about life back then. Living in the Houston area in the late 60s, it was a great time and place to be a kid. Awesome! But the world was changing, and so was how we saw ourselves in it.
Right on.
Mom, is that one a hippie?
Yeah, that's a hippie.
How about that one?
No, his hair's not long enough.
But he's wearing bell bottoms.
Okay, that's a hippie.
I think I like hippies.
This is a covert operation. That means it does not exist. No one can know about this. Not your parents, not your brothers, not your sisters. No one.
3, 2, 1.
T-minus 60 seconds and counting.
Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3.
Stan, are you ready?
1.
Ready.
Liftoff.
Apollo 10.5, this is Houston, do you read?
And that is Apollo 10 and a Half, A Space Age Childhood, the next animated movie brought to us by Richard Linklater, in which the movie shall be released on April 1st. And for those of you who are not necessarily familiar, maybe you have heard previously of Richard Linklater, especially when he released the film Boyhood. And that was definitely an experimental feature film that actually lasted literally an entire childhood, 12 years in the making, chronicling the story of a boy just growing up from being a kid to a teen and up to a young adult. And it was something that for many years they have committed into doing it. And when it was released, it was a big name movie at the Oscars, like prominently nominated in several different categories. And in terms of Richard Linklater, previously he has worked on animation before with two previous features, such as Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly. And they both actually have that specific kind of rotoscoping style where everything was filmed, everything was in front of the camera, and then following afterwards, that's when the animators come in and just draw what they see, what's in front of the camera, where we have this realistic looking style, but in a way that is still animated. And by the way, I saw some people that were a bit confused of seeing some familiar names. Yes, it does feature Zachary Levi, which, as you can see here, that's the other NASA guy that hasn't really talked much. Like, you can even tell from his face that, like, it is him. And also, if you heard that there was a bit of a narrator, that was actually Jack Black. And, like, considering how Jack Black does have that very distinct voice, like, you could definitely tell it's him. Even if he's not, like, in his Tenacious D rocker mode, like, you could still hear a little bit that it is actually Jack Black. Just have, like, a quick listen, like, over here.
First, let me tell you about life back then. Living in the Houston area in the late 60s, it was a great time and place to be a kid.
Like, you can absolutely hear, like, yeah, that's totally Jack, all right. That is absolutely Jack Black. And it's funny to mention, considering that Jack Black is actually he has been a recurring actor who has appeared in Richard Linklater's movies from time to time. Oh, and you know what? I almost forgot to mention about what is possibly the most popular Richard Linklater movie that I'm sure many of you have actually seen, School of Rock. Yes, Richard Linklater is the guy who has worked on School of Rock. It's funny to mention because Richard Linklater is actually a very versatile actor who can work on like several different genres, whether it be comedies, family films, romantic dramas, mystery films, and all that kind of stuff. Like, the dude is very experimental. He's very prominent and versatile. Like, he's able to do so many different things in one big go. And yeah, actually, someone brought up a good point. Someone mentioned, it was like, oh, Jack Black's got range. Yeah, well, I think that's the word that I was looking for with Richard Linklater, is that Linklater definitely has a lot of range. And this is one example. And one thing I will say, as someone who has seen both Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly, looking at this movie, I feel like one thing that I've noticed is that the technology on producing the animation has significantly improved. I don't know about you guys, but looking at this animation, the type of rotoscoping style that they are doing here, I feel like with this, it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot more defined. And it kind of feels like, okay, those were like stuff like Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly. Those were just a bit of experiments, but now it feels like they're starting to nail down on what they want to do, and they have a clear vision of what they want to do, and they're able to go and really pull it off well. And that's what we are seeing here with the animation. I mean, a lot of it, yeah, like it's like rooted into reality, and some people may question maybe if like, why does this need to be in animation? But then again, the space elements, I can say it does make sense. Like, especially when this is the story about this boy who is assigned by NASA to go to the moon. From there, yeah, I can already tell that, like, okay, you need the animation because it ain't like you can actually build like an entire like space station and have like all these different equipment to prepare the kid in order to go to the moon. So there is a bit of that explanation. And with that said, there's also the factor of the story. Like, okay, like, yeah, the technology, the animation on it, you know, it's cool. It is pretty unique. I mean, it definitely is Richard Linklater style. But when it comes to the story itself, I will say, like, that one I feel like it's more of a wait and see kind of thing, because so far from what we are seeing, this is more like a straightforward story about how a kid is going to achieve the childhood dream of going to space and going to the moon, where instead of Apollo 11 being a thing, it's actually Apollo 10 and a half, where it's actually a kid that is being sent to space. So they have all that going on. And in terms of that, I'll have to wait and see with how that is executed. I will admit that there are some cute moments, especially when this is supposed to be set in the late 1960s. And you could tell, like, it was a moment where there are some political tensions. Like, this is like you see like a little taste of the civil rights movement right at the beginning when the kids are watching TV, like at this part right over here.
And so is how we saw ourselves in it.
Right on.
Mom.
Like, we got that. And then there's also this moment, like, what a coincidence that it immediately followed up. Like, you see a bunch of kids in a car and they're all asking about, like, who's a hippie and who's not.
Is that one a hippie?
Yeah, that's a hippie.
How about that one?
No, his hair's not long enough.
But he's wearing bell bottoms.
Okay, that's a hippie.
I just love the casualty of this. I just love how casual the mom is while she's smoking. It's like, yep. That right there is a hippie. Nah, I don't say, okay, you know what? Yeah, fine, whatever. Yeah, you're right. That's a hippie. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you see right there? Yep, that's a hippie. That I do find, like, it's actually pretty funny in terms of the execution that they actually have, like, the whole hippie thing. But yeah, like, they definitely have, you know, it's interesting how they have set it in the late 1960s and show even like some of the political tension that is going on at the time, like to really bring us back. But I will say, in terms of the narrative and stuff like that, it will be more or less of a wait and see kind of thing. I won't immediately say that this is a premise that has me like hooked on it and it's like, I gotta watch it. I will say I am actually pretty curious to see what this one is going to be all about. And so far, with what Richard Linklater has done with movies such as Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly, they are very interesting. I won't say that they're masterpieces, but they are definitely interesting pieces of animation. That is, if people would count this as animation, especially considering how this really is like rotoscoped, and some people could say that this is kind of the same thing as motion capture. Like, I'm sure there are going to be a lot of debates regarding if this does constitute as an animated feature, but so far, from what we are seeing here, I feel like, yeah, technically this should be considered an animated film. If stuff like Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly is an animated feature, then I think this one as well. So overall, I will say I am curious. I'm not going to immediately say that this is going to be a must watch. I'm not immediately interested to see what this movie has in store, but you know what? I'm not expecting anything bad from this. You know, and I feel pretty curious, especially like when they have the animation that looks like it's a lot more polished and a lot more improved in terms of the technology of what they have done here compared to Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly. So if any of you are interested in checking out Apollo 10 and a half, then keep in mind that the movie is going to be coming out on Netflix on April 1st. All right, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall and I would like to ask you all, what do you think about Apollo 10 and a half? Are you guys excited to check this out? Are you guys interested? And especially if you have previously seen Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly, I would like to know your opinion on this. Or even if you're a Richard Linklater fan, I want to know your thoughts. All right, let's see what we got here. When I first saw the trailer of this, I thought it was, I think it'll be pretty good and enjoyable, especially when the animation is really great. It reminds me of A Scanner Darkly and Waltz with Bashir. So yeah, I'm going to see this film on April 1st. Also, I got a question for you, Matt. It has nothing to do with the movie itself, but I just got to ask, what was the music at the end of your Mitchells vs. the Machines review? Oh, dang. I mean, like, that's almost a year ago, honestly. I'm not 100% sure of which one you're talking about. I'll have to double check on that. I apologize if I can't answer that immediately. It's just been so long ago that I've done that review. So, and especially, like, I was a little bit sick back then. That's why in the review, like, you heard my voice, like, being a little, like, my throat sounded a bit sore. I think I had allergies back then, but yeah, like, honestly, there wasn't much that I do remember in terms of those specifics in that review. Anyways, let's see what we got here. This looks cool. Granted, it's not the style I'd be into, but the story and dialogue seems really interesting. I honestly only knew of the title and thought it was one of those cheap animated films that Netflix would put out, like that Australian movie last December. This director seems to be interesting, and knowing he did School of Rock, he sounds like he actually respected kids as individuals. The adults talk to the kids as an equal, and the kid is casual. It's very casual in its dialogue. Yeah, that is actually very true, and I think that is one thing that Richard Linklater knows how to capture. It's just that real-life feeling, that they really feel like down-to-earth, realistic characters that feel like they could actually exist in our world. That's one thing that that movie actually managed to do. Well, actually, his movies are capable of doing very well. Let's see what else we have here. I'm gonna waste no time. This looks absolutely great. The story is pretty intriguing. I'm already sold on Jack Black's narration. Well, maybe that's just my Jack Black bias talking. And the animation gives off very Waltz with Bashir and What If vibes, so I'll give it a watch. Also, this is a space movie set during the 60s. Why do I get the sense that the kid is going to listen to that David Bowie song? Maybe. It depends on licensing, but then again, you could say it's a little bit too late for that, considering that Lightyear has already got us covered with that, especially with the trailers that they would play Starman. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but we'll see. Let's see now. This has been on my radar for some time. My family and I are huge space nuts, especially the history of the moon landing. Now that we have our first true look, this still has my attention. All right, awesome. And it is definitely true. And you guys are actually doing great in terms of bringing up excuse me. All right, anyways, you guys are actually doing a great job bringing up different examples as well, not just Richard Linklater's previous animated works, but also stuff like What If, and there's another one that I do see, Loving Vincent. Technically, that does count as well. I'll have to do more research on it before I decide if I'm interested in watching it or not, but in my opinion, the art style reminds me of the film Loving Vincent, but without the painted style. Yeah, exactly. I think I'm just going to read one more comment before we jump into the next story. I only saw School of Rock and Bad News Bears remake from Linklater, and that is it. With Apollo 10.5, it looks a bit more lighthearted compared to the tone of Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly, since it is a coming-of-age story, and I think it'll give me an introduction to how Linklater handles rotoscoped animation. I don't think it'll be all that great, but hopefully it will be good when it comes out. Oh yeah, that's also another significant thing about this, is that you could feel, like, at least in the trailer, you could tell that this one is a lot more lighthearted. Like with Waking Life, like they really went into the philosophical aspect, and then you got A Scanner Darkly that goes into heavy themes such as drugs. But in here, this is about a kid going into space. So of course the tone will definitely be a lot more lighthearted compared to those ones. But then again, it is true that it does hand out a clue that maybe it'll go a little bit darker, because they did say that this is a PG-13 movie for some suggestive material, injury images, and smoking. So who knows? Maybe it'll be kid-friendly, maybe not really, because it is PG-13. But for any of you who are interested, and I'm surprised that A lot of you are, so that's actually pretty positive to see. But yes, for those of you who want to check out Apollo 10 and a half, then keep in mind that it will be coming out on Netflix on April 1st. Okay, so moving on to our next story. This is something that people have been waiting for a long time. We knew that this thing was coming, but we have just been waiting and waiting and waiting for some kind of announcement to be made. But now we are seeing the merger fully in effect. We are starting to see what is going to be the future in terms of anime, or at least anime distribution outside of Japan. And what I'm going to be discussing about is the new thing that's going on with Crunchyroll. Yes, Sony has officially announced that they are starting to move all their Funimation content onto Crunchyroll, and this was something that has immediately started since March 1st. And from there, this is not going to be something that they will do immediately all at once. They're just going to slowly do so one at a time. In fact, I will go and read you from my source here on Variety. It actually states that right now, the move brings more than 1,600 hours from more than 50 new added titles in Funimation's lineup to Crunchyroll. While Sony said it won't be raising prices on Crunchyroll's packages for now, the company said future new series will be exclusive to Crunchyroll starting April 1st, and that Funimation will only continue to add new episodes of current series. And on top of that, I do believe that we also have a quote that I would like to go and read you here from my source on Variety, as it states, when we brought Funimation, and by the way, this is from the CEO of Crunchyroll, Colin Decker, as Colin states, when we brought Funimation and Crunchyroll together last year, our top priority was to put fans first. Uniting all of our brands and services under the Crunchyroll brand globally enables us to offer more value than ever before as we combine subs, dubs, simulcasts, library, music, movies, manga, all into one subscription. And so far, the subscriptions that they do have, there is nothing that has changed. In fact, it even says that Crunchyroll's pricing of ad-free subscription plans remains unchanged at $7.99 a month for the fan trial, $9.99 a month for Mega Fan, and $14.99 a month for the Ultimate Fan. And in terms of the anime that they have moved onto Crunchyroll for now, we actually do have a list here from Crunchyroll's website. And just to name you some of the anime titles that they are bringing on, these include Attack on Titan Junior High. Let's see here. They also got Cowboy Bebop, both the sub and the dub. That's coming to Crunchyroll. Then following afterwards, we also got Goblin Slayer, High School DxD, which includes New, Born, and Hero. Then following afterwards, we also got the 3 seasons of Kingdom. We got the 74 episodes of Hunter x Hunter. Then following afterwards, we got Log Horizon, which includes the original, the sequel, and Destruction of the Round Table. After that, we also got we got Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, along with S. Then afterwards, we got the 5 seasons of My Hero Academia. Then after that, we also got, let me see if we have other recognizable ones. I'm sure we do. Well, we got the, That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, both season 1, 2, and the OADs. Then afterwards, we got the 2 seasons of The Promised Neverland. Then after that, we got Tokyo Ghoul, which includes Route A and RE. We also got Uzaki-chan Wants to Hang Out. We got 112 episodes of Yu Yu Hakusho and the OVAs. And finally, we also got Yuri on Ice. And this is just the first batch that they are moving over to Crunchyroll. And there is going to be more and more that are going to be coming. And what's interesting to note, by the way, is that it seems that with this merger, it looks like Crunchyroll is going to be the main anime service. It looks like in the future there is a possibility that they will be phasing out the Funimation brand, as it even states here that in addition to consolidation of two streaming services, Sony-owned Funimation Global Group LLC will now operate as Crunchyroll LLC and has initiated rebranding across its global footprint. So I could probably imagine that in the future, because of this, there is a possibility that we will see Funimation be no more, and that the full anime brand that Sony has under their belt is going to be Crunchyroll. And like I said before, for a long time, people have been anticipating for this moment. Right when we have heard that Sony has purchased Crunchyroll off of AT&T for, I believe, just under $1.2 billion, we knew that eventually there was going to be this kind of merger. Like, the most expected thing to come from them is the fact that they would take the two streaming services, Funimation and Crunchyroll, and that they would combine them together in order to create what is essentially the ultimate streaming service package. Or just the ultimate anime streaming service, per se. So that's what I meant more. But yeah, we were all expecting for that moment, but it has been a little bit of a while. It's been like, what, over a year since the purchase was officially done, or that the announcement of that purchase was going to be made. And yeah, there have been a lot of speculations, a lot of people who have been worried. But now I guess we are seeing that now it is time that Sony is indeed taking action, and that now Crunchyroll is going to be the dominant anime streaming service. Which there was a part of me that was a little bit surprised, but then again, I guess I shouldn't, considering that it is true that even before the purchase, Crunchyroll was the more successful anime streaming service than Funimation. Not to say that Funimation wasn't a hit, but the Crunchyroll did manage to beat out Funimation in terms of the amount of content that they have and the amount of subscribers that they have as well. So it does make sense that, like, you would all move that into the bigger streaming platform. And one thing I will say that actually does surprise me is that they have yet to announce that they're going to be changing prices, that they're still going to keep it at $7.99, $9.99, and $14.99. And that was one thing that, like, really did worry a lot of anime fans out there, if we are going to see the prices jack right up, because technically we are seeing two major anime streaming services combined together. But for now, that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case. Although I'm only saying for now, and like even this article here is saying that they're not changing it yet. Like, it is predictable that inevitably in the future, we are going to see the prices jack up. We are going to see, like, those prices. Inevitably, it won't stay as, like, either $8 a month or $9 a month or $10 a month and stuff like that. Eventually, we will see those price increases. I wouldn't be surprised that, like, I'm not saying that they will double, but it would gradually grow. Like, I can imagine maybe, like, even the one, like, maybe $2 more per month, probably, like, just to start things off. 2 or 3 max. Like, that's at least my prediction, because this is what streaming services normally do. And I'm not just talking about, like, even for this, like, even, like, Netflix or Disney Plus, like, they have recently announced, like, they would be hiking up the prices. So it wouldn't be surprising if inevitably we will also see Crunchyroll make that rise as well. It will probably be a little bit later, like, once the move is official and that all the Funimation content is now officially moved onto Crunchyroll. Like, once, like, they can get rid of the Crunchyroll streaming service, they can now have Crunchyroll in its entirety, and from there we could probably see the prices go up. But then again, that's only for the future. For now, Sony will just be focusing on trying to move that Funimation content and putting it all onto and put that all onto Crunchyroll. And it is still going to take some time. Yeah, Funimation doesn't necessarily have as much content as Crunchyroll, but they still have a buttload of content that they need to go and move. It is going to be a gradual process, and again, it wouldn't be until a month until we see the new episodes that would normally be on Funimation will be exclusively onto Crunchyroll. So there is that as well. But only time will tell if this is going to be something that could actually be beneficial for anime fans. I have heard anime fans are actually pretty happy that now they have just one central hub of where they can go and consume all their content instead of like splitting their attention into different streaming services. And for now, of course, like it is going to be financially beneficial, especially like you could just go and unsubscribe to Funimation and you could move it onto Crunchyroll. So there is that you could pretty much do. So like, of course, anime fans are excited because they'll be saving up money and that they're going to get so much more brand new content onto one platform. Or if they need their true anime fix, they could just move onto Funimation, or they could just move to Crunchyroll. So that seems to be the big thing right now. But how things are going to be now that Crunchyroll has consumed Funimation and is now going to be under Sony Pictures, or is going to be under Sony, that is going to be something that will remain to be seen. If it's going to be a great deal, if it's something that anime fans are not necessarily going to be pleased, I don't necessarily know, but we shall wait and see. I think a lot of it is going to be a wait and see, but so far, things are looking pretty positive, and I mean, hey, we're getting a lot more content onto Crunchyroll, so like, we might as well go and make the most out of it, I guess. All right, so with that said, I know I don't necessarily have a whole lot to say on this, but now I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about Funimation moving all of its content onto Crunchyroll now that they are finally doing it? And especially, I would like to know, if you are an anime fan, how do you feel about it? Especially if you are a subscriber either to Funimation or Crunchyroll, or maybe even both. I would love to know your thoughts on this. Okay, let's see what we have here. Darling in the Franks, Data Live, Dr. Stone, Fire Force, Fruit Basket, Hunter x Hunter. Okay, wow, that's just a list of all the different animes. Quite the addition to the ever-growing Crunchyroll. As long as they're in line with Japan's copyright laws, it should be fine, right? I hope they might add, if not already, One Punch Man and Demon Slayer. Yeah, I think those are already on Crunchyroll. I think those are already available. I think maybe, I just want to double check. I believe maybe like they already got One Punch Man, but I can guarantee you they already have Demon Slayer, so they already got that covered. Yeah, let's see now. Okay, first of all, the way you introduced the story made me think you were talking about the second Green Eggs and Ham season. Don't toy with my emotions like that, Matto. Yes, I am aware that technically, yeah, I know that there is now going to be a season 2 of Green Eggs and Ham, and I think it is a legit season 2 of Green Eggs and Ham. It's not like a drop of a season 1, so yes, there is that. Anyways, I'm probably the most excited to check out High School DxD, mainly because people keep donating it to this Christian streamer I watch, and I normally make a Corey in the House joke, but due to the recent events, I can't. Ah, well. At least I got Drake and Josh. Oh, no, wait, didn't you? No, wait, didn't you just... Yeah, yeah, sometimes there are those... Yeah, it's true, like, often... You'll see those things that you'll hear those news where like, yeah, we can't really use those jokes anymore. We got to move on to something. Let's see. Ah, crap, JF. Apparently now the horny police is coming after you. Watch out for King. Okay, let's see now. I think it's a good idea that Crunchyroll is going to be the main source for streaming anime, and the viewers will not have to subscribe more streaming services that would save money easily. Now there are 2 anime streaming services worldwide, Crunchyroll and High Dive, which may also be available on the AMC+. Also, if you're interested in watching some WTF anime, watch Keijo, aka Hip Whip Girl. Okay, well, I'll take that into consideration. Let's see what else we have. Any other comments that I need to read? It's funny that I just subscribed to Funimation a couple of weeks ago, but now that some of the content will go to Crunchyroll, I guess I'll have to think about it if I should subscribe to Crunchyroll too. I'll see if I want to or not. Yes, I will say that, well, maybe you don't have to. I think Crunchyroll does have a plan for those subscribers to Funimation. Like, if you are subscribed to Funimation, then you can actually go and move on. You can actually have a free subscription to Crunchyroll, or that is if you like, you can move your subscription to Crunchyroll. I think, like, I believe Crunchyroll does have a plan for those who are subscribed to Funimation. But yes, I think for now, I will say that it's probably worth subscribing to Crunchyroll for now if you are subscribed to Funimation. So, like, maybe there is a plan. Go check it, like, go try to do some research if there is that kind of plan, so that you don't necessarily have to accidentally subscribe to 2 streaming services when you don't have to. But I think there is a way around that. All right, I think I'll read one more comment before we jump onto our next story. I'm currently using Netflix to get started on anime, but I might sign up to Crunchyroll in the future. Also, with the merger with the name, would you prefer Crunchimation or Funnyroll? Nah, I think that ship has already sailed, unfortunately. I think it's just going to be Crunchyroll. I mean, kind of surprised. Well, again, it's pretty surprising, especially when it is Sony, and Sony's main anime brand is Funimation, but then again, Crunchyroll is the bigger streaming service. So yeah, I think like the overall thing is going to be Crunchyroll, especially when they did announce that technically the company that will be under it that will handle these is going to be Crunchyroll and not Funimation. So just something that I thought that I need to quickly mention. But yeah, it seems that 2022 will start a brand new chapter in the history of anime, or at least in terms of international anime distribution. So now the merger has officially begun, and let's hope for the best that it will definitely be beneficial for the anime fans. All right, so moving on to our next story. This is actually something that was just announced today. There have been rumors and a bit of speculations that this was happening, but now it seems to be like a legit true thing. And one thing I will say, I am actually pretty excited for this one. Already my hype is high for this. And what I'm talking about is a brand new Muppet series. Yes, Disney Plus has announced that they are going to be making a brand new Muppet series in which is going to be called The Muppet Mayhem. And this isn't really going to be like the same things that we have gotten before. This isn't like the entire Muppet gang coming together and doing a variety of skits or stuff like that. Like, you won't really see Kermit or Fozzie or Gonzo or Miss Piggy. Those aren't going to be the stars for this one. But rather, it's going to be the band of the show, the Electric Mayhem. And on top of that, we also got Lilly Singh, who is going to be the star of this as well. Reading from my source here on Variety, it states that the series titled The Muppets Mayhem will follow the Electric Mayhem as they try to record their first ever album. Lilly Singh will star as Nora, the human junior A&R executive tasked with managing the Electric Mayhem's band. And this is actually going to be a series that will be brought to us by the creator of The Goldbergs, Adam F. Goldberg, alongside Jeff Yorks and Bill Barretta. And so far, I will say right now, we don't necessarily have an official release date on when this is going to be coming out, but we know for a fact that this is going to be coming out. Oh, and I just noticed the Crimson Mayhem is also here. Hey, Crimson. But anyways, I do have a couple of quotes that I would like to go and read here. And this, the first one here is going to be from the president of Disney Branded Television, Io Davis, and Io states, "The Muppets are renowned for quality, creativity, and unrivaled fun storytelling for the whole family. We are thrilled to have Adam, Bill, and Jeff at the helm to bring all these iconic and great new characters to life in fresh and dynamic ways. We also got another quote right over here, which is going to be from Joni Davis, the president of ABC Signature. As Joni states, Adam F. Goldberg is our resident Muppet enthusiast at Signature, and getting to play in the sandbox with Bill, a longtime Muppet performer, as well as these beloved characters was a dream come true to him. Bill and Jeff, a dream come true for him, Bill, and Jeff. Their take is fresh, fun, musical, and of course, hilarious. We couldn't be happier to be the studio that is helping them get the band back together. And that currently is the major thing that is happening in terms of the new Muppet content. The fact that we are getting an Electric Mayhem Disney Plus series. And I gotta say, this is actually very interesting because I don't know if this is something that commonly does happen, but it is very rare that we would get these kinds of Muppet spin-offs, or at the very least, the kind of Muppet spin-offs that don't star the main Muppets. I know that we would have stuff like the Muppet Babies that is technically a spin-off to the Muppets, but what I mean specifically, we don't necessarily get much content that focuses on the Muppets that are outside of the main ones that we know. Like, this is the first time, at least in a long time, that doesn't necessarily star characters such as Kermit or Miss Piggy or Gonzo or Fozzie or any of those Muppets. Like, in here, it specifically focuses on the Electric Mayhem. That is specifically on Dr. Teeth, on Floyd Pepper, on Janice, on Zoot, on Lips, and on Animal, and their little adventures, and as well as bringing someone like Lilly Singh, who does know comedy, especially from her YouTube channel, and then prominently growing to even have her own late night show. So they definitely do have the materials for something pretty fun and what could be interesting. But honestly, this is something that today, it was something that I did reflect upon if this could be a series that can actually work. And to be very honest, I feel like the fact that this does not star people such as Kermit, Fozzie, Gonzo, or Miss Piggy, it actually gives this series a lot more creative control of doing whatever it wants. Because that seems to be the complicated scenario with what the Muppets are facing right now, is to truly find their own identity. And whenever they make something new or create a brand new series, they have a little bit of a hard time trying to recapture that magic of what they have done before. Because with the Muppets, they have such an identity that we all recognize and that we all adore, that with every new incarnation of the Muppets, rather it be the 2015 series or even not long ago with what they have done with Muppets Now, they do have a little bit of difficulties trying to get that style, trying to get that true Muppet style to really come to life. Or even with some of the movies such as the 2011 film or Muppets Most Wanted. Now, not to say that those contents are actually bad or anything like that. A lot of them are actually quite enjoyable, but often because they are the Muppets and that they are so recognizable, there's just this standard, or there's just something that we all expect from them that they have yet to fully deliver. But then we get this. We get the Electric Mayhem. And considering that it is just the Electric Mayhem, and it's not necessarily something that prominently features Kermit, Gonzo, Fozzie, and whomever, now we have this brand new standard, and now there's a lot more opportunities and a lot more creative options that these creators can actually do, and they can go into new directions, and it could actually work out well because it's trying to be its own thing. It's not necessarily trying to be a Muppet show. It's more being its own thing. And honestly, thinking about it, I do realize that, I was actually thinking about their moments of what they had back in the Muppets 2015 series. And I feel like if that, with that format that they have, that office style sitcom, camera interview style of storytelling, I feel like probably that would actually work out well if they would just focus on the Electric Mayhem more so than actually with the entire cast of the Muppets just redoing the Muppets. I feel like with the Electric Mayhem, it would actually work out a bit more. Even having a bit of that adult tone, I feel like it could actually function well with the Electric Mayhem, especially when they, like, technically they are the rock band, and it, like, if there is a group of Muppets that are the most likely to be susceptible to doing, like, more adult-oriented things, rather it be sex or drugs or anything like that, it would most likely be the Electric Mayhem. In fact, if you look into the lore of the Muppets, some have already done so. In fact, Animal, believe it or not, has actually been confirmed that he has been sleeping around. In fact, actually, I think it was in the 2015 series that I do recall that there have been like some confirmations. Like, I remember there was Animal. He was ready to like be a part of the like this popular band. I don't know if it's like the Foo Fighters or like it was a guest star band, and they asked like, "Hey, Animal, do you want to come with us on the road?" And then Floyd comes in like, "No. Animal is not meant for the road. He shouldn't go on tour." And then you see Animal is like, "Yeah, too many women, too many towns." It was such a great moment. I know the 2015 Muppet, sorry about that. The 2015 Muppet series, I know it's not a great show in itself, but they can definitely have some golden moments right there. And then there's another one. I remember the whole band was actually arguing in terms of who is in a relationship with Janice, that apparently like she's too much of a free spirit, and that she's been hopping around too much with the other guys, well, like either with Dr. Teeth or with Floyd or with Zoot or like with all the others. So yeah, so basically the whole point that I'm trying to say is that if they wanted another shot to try to go into a bit more of a general audience or more adult oriented kind of show, and if they want to do that with the Muppets, I feel like it is most likely they could pull it off much better with the Electric Mayhem, more so than with all the Muppets, like with Kermit, Miss Piggy, Fozzie, Gonzo, and all those guys. I think it would work much better with the Electric Mayhem. So honestly, overall with this new series, even though this has just been announced, yeah, honestly, as a Muppet fan myself, of course I'm excited for this. Not only because, well, this is a brand new Muppet show that's coming soon on Disney+, but also the fact that it does have a brand new interesting idea that does allow them to be a little bit more creative, and that they can go outside of the usual realm of doing the typical Muppet show. There are no Muppet standards that we would have to go and expect. Like, this really is just like this brand new thing that focuses just on a specific group of Muppets. And especially considering that the whole plot line is all about trying to make their first ever album, I definitely do hope that at the end of that season, that Disney does actually release that Electric Mayhem album. Because honestly, I could actually see that. I could actually see that as a thing that would legitimately work, that we would see the Electric Mayhem as a legitimate band in which they would go and produce either their own music or they would make covers and stuff like that. Because there have been a few times actually in which the Electric Mayhem was actually featured in concerts. Like, no joke, like even separate to the Muppets and stuff like that, where there would be some concerts that did actually feature the Electric Mayhem. Maybe not necessarily as like the headliners, but there have been some moments in Muppet history where we saw the Electric Mayhem be prominently featured in concerts and stuff like that, performing in front of a live audience. So honestly, that would be something that I would really honestly, that's one thing that I would love to see, is actually legitimate Electric Mayhem albums. I would definitely be down to go and buy a CD myself. So yeah, all this to say, I am definitely excited for this series, and hopefully, I'm not saying I want this to come out soon. Like, please Adam, Jeff, Bill, take your time with making this show. Make sure that it is as awesome as possible. So, like, don't worry. Like, I'm not gonna rush you guys. Please take your time with this and make sure that it is as awesome as it can be. But I am definitely excited for this one. All right, so with that said, I'd like to go into the chat wall, and I'd like to know your thoughts on this. How do you feel about this Electric Mayhem series coming to Disney Plus? Are you guys excited about this? And also, if you as well are also a Muppet fan like me, then I want to know your thoughts too. So let me hear it, folks. All right, let's see now. An Electric Mayhem show might be interesting. Personally, I wasn't all that big with them amongst all the Muppet characters I like, but with the right creator, then this show might turn out well. I honestly can't wait to see what Adam F. Goldberg can do with this show, since I do love what he has done with the Goldbergs, which is still going strong on ABC for 9 seasons. So far, I wish him the best of luck. Exactly. You know, it's funny because even in this article, it actually does mention about how the Muppets have tried from time to time with other show creators to have their own series on Disney Plus, but it didn't work out well, including that canceled project of that sequel to Muppets Take Manhattan that was developed by Josh Gad and the creators of Once Upon a Time. Yeah. Adam Horowitz, Edward Kitsis, and Josh Gad were originally meant to create a new Muppet series set just after the events of the film Muppets Take Manhattan, but the show was scrapped before being ordered to series. So yeah, there is that. So anyways, what else we have here? The Electric Mayhem were always the most underrated Muppets in the gang. Okay, that's a lie. I can't diss my boy Beauregard. Yo, man, Beauregard needs love, man. Trust me, you can't overlook Beauregard. Anyways, and this is a really fun idea. Plus, Lilly Singh is pretty funny, so this will be a must-watch. But I gotta ask, as it does open up the gates to more Muppet spin-offs, like, what about a series with Rolf or Statler and Waldorf going all Siskel and Ebert? What about Sam and Gene teaming up again? Maybe a heist series with Constantine and Dominic, who knows? That is definitely true, and like, if this actually does go well, then we might actually see more of this, like, Muppet spin-off. Like, that could be a good way to actually revive the Muppets. Not necessarily all together, but separately in a way. I guess you could say that, like, the prophecy of the 2011 Muppets is now coming to life, where we see, like, all the different Muppets just splitting ways, doing their own thing, but that could actually work out. Like, yeah, why not actually have just, like, a Fozzie Bear series that's just Fozzie Bear, or have like a Statler and Waldorf series where, yeah, like just being Siskel and Ebert, like having their own reviews and stuff. You know, like, honestly, I feel like okay, this might sound crazy, but what Paramount is doing right now with SpongeBob, with all those spinoffs and stuff like that, like, honestly, I think it could work out with the Muppets. I think that's what the Muppets actually need in order to bring back their relevancy and their popularity. I can actually really see that working. I know it's kind of controversial to say because right now Paramount is exploiting the crap out of SpongeBob, but I'm just saying, like, having this idea of having all these numerous of spin-offs based on different characters and different timelines of the Muppets, I think it could actually work. And I mean, technically, the Muppets already have their camp choral with the Muppet Babies. So who knows? Maybe, like, they can have their own The Patrick Star Show with Fozzie Bear or something like that. Who knows? Let's see. Who else do we have here? I'm just glad that the Muppets are being expanded for more series, spin-offs, and even opportunities to be on other shows. Excuse me. Like the time Kermit voiced the character in Amphibia and Fozzie voiced the character in Big City Green. I hope Disney and the folks in charge of the Muppets have learned their lessons since sometime before 2020, when they weren't treated very well. Oh yeah, exactly. And we are slowly but surely seeing like the Muppets making a small comeback, even more so than more so compared to Muppets Now, especially after Muppets Haunted Mansion, which apparently seems to be a hit, or at least enough of a hit for Disney to go and approve a new Muppet series. So it could actually work out. Let's see what else. What other comment? I think I'll just read one more before we go into the grand finale of this. I don't have much to say since I'm not into the Muppets, but I really like the idea of giving lesser-known Muppets their own show, and this could perhaps lead to other Muppets getting their own small shows as well. This doesn't relate to the story, but I just have to say this. I'm honestly surprised that you haven't covered Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on this podcast, considering you seem to love Pokemon so much. Yes, I do, but I know that seems to be like a major thing, and it was very much talked about on the internet, but the reason why I didn't really talk about it is mainly because, well, there's not really a lot to talk about much. Like, yes, we are getting a 9th generation of Pokemon games with Scarlet and Violet, and I know that so far we know that it is set in the Pokemon version of Barcelona in Spain, and that we have seen the 3 starter Pokemon. But honestly, that's pretty much it. There's not necessarily enough to fully talk about. I'm gonna wait until like probably in the summer when we do fully know a lot more information about Scarlet and Violet until we can fully discuss, but for now, there's not a lot that we can actually talk about. Like the most that we can discuss is just which starter are we going to pick? And for now, I'm going to say Fuecoco really does interest me, so I think I might go with that little Croco kid. But yeah, anyways, back to what I was talking about with the Muppets. It's nice to see the Muppets that they're making more shows and they're still prominently present on Disney Plus. So, or they're still prominently present with Disney in general. So let's hope for the future that the Muppets Mayhem can be a new great addition to the Muppets lineup. All right, folks, this is it. This is the moment we've been waiting for. It is now time for... Wait for it. There we go, the grand finale. And with this one, well, we started with a corporate controversy, and we are going to go and end this off with another corporate controversy. And this is still something that is freshly hot, and even some updates that have been going on that is just making things worse and worse and worse and worse. And with that said, let's get right into it and let us discuss about Disney and the Don't Say Gay bill. Now, for those of you who don't know what is going on, in Florida, Republican politicians have signed into effect, well, not officially, but they have passed, their House of Representatives have officially passed a bill which is called the Don't Say Gay bill. And to go into it, I'm just going to quickly read a small passage. I believe it is right here. Yes, in my source on The Hollywood Reporter. It states that the Florida bill is now expected to pass the state Senate and be signed into law. It limits open discussions of sexuality and gender identity, with provisions allowing parents to sue if they allege schools or instructors have been in violation. So this is pretty much cancel culture and censorship at its finest. It is meant to go and attack the youth of the LGBTQ plus communities and trans youth as well, basically silencing them and censoring their history entirely, which basically is the point. It's to say, don't say gay. That basically it's kind of criminal to even say gay or anything like that. And from there, people have turned to Disney, hopefully that they could go and actually say something about it because, well, of course, the grand majority of people are opposed to this. In fact, you've probably seen on social media, like a whole bunch of high schools across Florida that they have actually made walkouts and they have protested against the Don't Say Gay bill. And of course, like, again, the grand majority of people have condemned this this bill. They are against it. They are fully against with how Ron DeSantis is running Florida. And we even got, he even got called out by President Joe Biden and even the former CEO of Disney, Bob Iger. But because Bob Iger has made a comment and he called out DeSantis for this being a hateful bill, a lot of people are wondering, well, what about the current CEO? What about Bob Chapek? Is he going to say about it? Considering that Disney has been an incredibly inclusive company, and over the years, they have been proud to be massive supporters of the LGBTQ plus community, surely they would go and say something to condemn this bill and to oppose it. The truth is, no, not really. They'd rather want to be distant about it. In fact, Bob Chapek is pretty much taking a position where he feels like he just want to say, oh, I don't really want to talk about politics, and just walk away from the whole situation. In fact, going into the specifics of what is going on here, well, it's actually kind of freaky because it is kind of showing a new side of Bob Chapek that does make it pretty concerning about the future of the Walt Disney Company. As it states here, Chapek is busy putting his own stamp on Disney company culture, and clearly he will be less willing to wade into advocacy than Iger. For example, a knowledgeable source says Chapek balked at a proposal to weigh in on voting rights. Chapek is private about his politics, but is believed to be much more conservative than Iger, who was a registered Democrat before becoming independent in 2016. Chapek is staunchly opposed to bringing Disney into issues that he deems irrelevant to the company and its business, this person says. And not to mention the fact that there are other, other quotes here that are even more concerning. Even this one. According to a source familiar with both Iger and Chapek's thinking, Iger tended to speak out not only when issues affected the company's business interests, but when they affected its employees, now numbering at 195,000. But this person says Chapek has taken a narrower view and has been concerned that Disney might be viewed as too liberal. And if you want to know a few examples of what they mean by how Iger would go and speak out, and this actually is true. Say what you will about Bob Iger, but he was never afraid to actually go and speak out about very dangerous moments and really tough times that have been going on. And even the source has brought up a few quotes, I believe. Yes, like here, this one is just a few examples. It's actually just above it. It even says, during his years at Disney, Iger chose his battles and his words, but he weighed in on some hot-button issues. In 2019, he told Reuters that if Georgia passes a controversial heartbeat bill that sought to ban abortions about 6 weeks into pregnancy, it would be very difficult for Disney to continue to film productions in the state. I think many people who work for us will not want to work there, and we will have to heed their wishes in that regard, he said. The Georgia bill was signed into law, but has been tied up in court battles since. In February 2017, after Donald Trump imposed his Muslim ban, Iger told CNBC, I think we as a nation is due to having openness to the people of the world. I firmly believe that we cannot shut our borders to immigrants. A few months later, he quit a presidential advisory council. He quit a presidential advisory council, citing a matter of principle after the Trump administration pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord. So Bob Iger was not necessarily afraid to speak out regarding politics, but Bob Chapek seems to be a lot more reserved. Now, keep in mind though, that doesn't necessarily mean that Bob Chapek is not going to involve, or how can I put this actually? This doesn't mean that Bob Chapek won't involve himself in politics, because he will still go and finance many of these politicians, whether they be Democratic or they would be conservative. In fact, they even mentioned here that Bob Chapek has definitely donated to several different politicians, which even includes Republicans like Kevin McCarthy, or even Democrats such as Howard Berman and Patrick Leahy. And on top of that, specifically focusing on the bill itself, well, at that point, unfortunately, it looks like, yeah, even Disney has actually helped out some politicians who did put that bill into effect. Even in states here, the Orlando Sentinel's Scott Maxwell wrote recently that Disney cut checks to Florida State Senate Dennis Baxley and other backers of the Don't Say Gay legislation, as have Comcast, NBC Universal, Charter Communications, and AT&T. Let's be clear, these companies have every right to donate to whomever they want. But you also have a right to know about it, and to know that in other states, businesses have used the political power they purchase to effectively neuter culture wars. Disney has also contributed to legislators who oppose the bill. So that's pretty much the big thing that we are seeing right over here, is the fact that we are seeing this very controversial bill that is meant to go and attack children of the LGBTQ plus community, but Disney isn't really going to do anything about it in order to help them, to save them, or to even say anything about it. And from there, I just want to say, like, I know that it's one thing to go and say, oh, I don't want to talk about politics and try to separate yourself from the issue. But the big thing here is that we are talking about the Walt Disney Company. We're not just talking about Bob Chapek. We're specifically talking about Disney. And this is an issue that they have no choice but to actually get themselves involved. Not only because of the fact that thousands of their employees are actually part of the LGBTQ plus community, but Disney actually has a very long history with capitalizing on the LGBTQ plus community. They have been a very strong advocate when it comes to being supporters of the LGBTQ plus community, that they love the community. They've been sharing so many social media posts. They have been making millions upon millions of dollars on it. For decades, they have been running gay days at the Disney parks, where the community is allowed to like really have the parks for their own, where it's the day where like the community is truly invited to be at the Disney park so that these couples can really enjoy their time at Disneyland and stuff like that. And not to mention all those times that Disney takes so much pride into introducing their gay characters, rather it be like LeFou in the Beauty and the Beast remake, or that one random gay guy in the Cruella movie that apparently is Cruella's friend, or there's also like that one cop in Onward. Like whenever they do so, like it was kind of a meme that like Disney was proud to display their first gay character in whatever, you know, like they even have like a lineup of first gay characters at Disney. So the thing is that like what I want to go and emphasize is that Disney has a major business when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community, and how they portray themselves as one of the strongest supporters of the community as well. And yet, despite the fact that they have spent despite the fact that they have made pretty much a brand for themselves of being so inclusive to the community, and that they take pride in their diversity within their team, within their cast members, within their characters and all that kind of stuff, at their time of need, Disney does nothing? Like that really does send in massively mixed signals. And again, this is not something that you could just walk away and just say, oh, I don't want to talk about politics. No, you have no choice, because the brand is so affiliated with the community. The fact that the Disney brand has built itself to be one of the strongest supporters of the community, and yet in their time of need, you want to do nothing at all. Actually, in fact, I just want to say that it is actually worse than nothing, because Disney did actually do a response, and Bob Chapek has actually provided a response. And I'm just going to do a long story short on this, because This was actually shared, like technically this is the first one that Disney put out in terms of a statement, as well as Bob Chapek. This is from my source here on Good Morning America's Twitter account. And the statement that they put out here is, we understand how important this issue is to our LGBTQ plus employees and many others. For nearly a century, Disney has been a unifying force that brings people together. We are determined that it remains a place where everyone is treated with dignity and respect. The biggest impact we can have in creating a more inclusive world is through the inspiring content we produce, the welcoming culture we create here, and the diverse community organizations we support, including those represented in the LGBTQ plus community. Are you kidding me, dude? Like, honestly, at this point, all I can think of is that Gravity Falls meme. Like, do you remember when Dipper was given that minus $12 and he was like, wow, this is worthless. And then you got the guy on the side that's like, it's less than worthless, my boy. That's exactly how I feel about this. It's a full on. Oh! Exactly. It's really a full on that. It's just a idiotic mistake. And what makes it worse, by the way, like what's even worse is that I believe it's just today, Bob Chapek has actually put out a massive letter to all the cast members and to all the Disney employees to fully explain himself about his position with the Don't Say Gay bill. And he pretty much explained the exact same thing. I don't have to read you the entire letter because it pretty much says the exact same thing. And this is honestly the worst response that you could ever do. This is worse than saying nothing, actually, because not only is Bob Chapek admitting that he's not going to do anything about the Don't Say Gay bill, but he is also going to continue on pretending as if he supports the LGBTQ plus community. I mean, what side is it, Bob? You cannot do both. It is either A, you stand up for the rights of the LGBTQ plus community and you call out Ron DeSantis for his bigotry and his attack on the youth, or B, you just say nothing at all, you don't acknowledge it, and you move on. And I mean everything. You don't say anything. Don't even say that you support it if you're not going to do anything about it. And this is like, and especially the fact that this is the worst response possible, mainly because of the fact that you're trying to pretend to show that, oh, you support it. And even with this one right here, even with this one, all it's saying is that, oh, the best way that we can support the community is keep doing our job and that you consume our products. That's how we're all going to support the LGBTQ plus community. Like, no, come on, dude. You need to go and say action. It really does not matter what Bob Chapek says on the issue because actions speak louder than words. And that's what people are going to do right now. They're not going to go and look into the words of what Bob Chapek says. They're going to look into the actions of what he does. And the fact that he ignores and does nothing about the Don't Say Gay bill will speak a lot more and will say a lot more than the words that Disney and the social media sites and like, it's going to say a lot more than Disney saying that they support the community. Well, not if you're not going to do anything when they need your help. And again, Disney has been making millions upon millions of dollars upon the community, and the community has really helped Disney to go and become the company that they are now. And yet, during their time of need, Disney does absolutely nothing in return. It is a massive betrayal for the LGBTQ plus community, especially those who are working at Disney. In fact, I do believe that there are starting to be people who are calling Bob Chapek and Disney out for this. And these are actually people who do work at Disney. There is one in particular that is worth noting on, especially like on his Twitter account and his social media accounts as well. I'm trying to find the name. I think it is actually mentioned here. It's Steven something. I do recall it actually is Steven something. Crap, I'm trying to find out. I know that there was a point, and okay, yeah, no. Oh, not. Who did I say? Okay, no, that's not who I meant to say. But so far, one of the loudest advocates who is working at Disney right now against this is actually Benjamin Simon, which is said here, whose extensive resume includes several Disney credits like DuckTales and the podcast This Duckburg Life. And so far, he is the one that is representing Disney employees to call out on the Don't Say Gay bill and demands Disney to actually go and do something. And he is asking for other Disney employees to go and stand up against this and demand that Disney actually does do something for the sake of the community that is actually working at Disney. So good on him, and I do hope that he gets much more support. And of course, this is not to mention there is as well Abigail Disney, the daughter of Roy E. Disney and the great niece of Walt Disney. Of course, she has been a very prominent advocate, and this is also something that she has called out on the Disney company in order to take action against, not only being heavily against the Don't Say Gay bill, but also been a very vocal critic of the Walt Disney Company as well. And one thing I just want to say is just, I know people, I know that this is something that it's kind of, it's kind of worthless to expect that, oh, Disney should do better on this. Oh, Disney should know better than to not take action or anything like that. Because yes, it is true. Disney is a big corporation, and that we should not trust big corporations for them to go and support you because they only care about money, period. Especially in the case of Bob Chapek, when this is a man who is fully business first, that really it's all about the money and it's all about the business before anything else. I get that, but this is not to make Disney change their minds. This is not my goal with what I'm trying to do here. What I am trying to do is to pretty much call out Disney on that, to try to document it. Like, that still doesn't change the fact that what Disney is doing is flat out wrong, and that they're pretty much pulling up the curtain, that they're pretty much disingenuous when it comes to their support. Like really, this is what we are seeing right now feels like the ultimate form of virtue signaling, that Disney is only supporting the community because of the money, and that is it. Not necessarily because they genuinely care about them, but it really is just about the money. And Bob Chapek is doing a terrible job in trying to cover that fact, at least with Bob Iger. Like, yeah, maybe it's debatable if even under his regime, the Walt Disney Company does care about their employees and they care about the LGBTQ plus community. But at least you do get a sense that Bob Iger does care about the people who work for him. At least he's not afraid to call out the bullcrap that is going on, rather it be done by Donald Trump or done by or whatever controversy that is happening around the world. Like, at least he is brave enough to go and call them out. At least there is a sense, even a tiny bit of genuineness that Disney and the leader actually does care about the people. Not with Bob Chapek, not with how Disney is right now, and with Bob Chapek. Like, the genuineness is just flat out gone, and you could tell that this dude only cares about the business and only cares about the money. Never once about the employees and never once about the people. And that's why this needs to be documented. This needs to be remembered, because I'm just going to say right now, coming in the next few months, things are going to get real awkward for Disney. In fact, I'm going to say coming soon in June, we are going to have a very interesting Pride Month. I can tell you that right now, because considering the things that we do know about many of these corporations, and we know that in June, corporations love to celebrate Pride Month. They love to present themselves as inclusive and very supportive towards the LGBTQ plus community. But we know that it's the other way around. Like, we know things are going to be very awkward for Netflix because hypocritically, they'll say that they support the community, but at the same time, they're prepping up for the next Dave Chappelle special where you never know which bigoted attack that Dave is going to do next. And the same is going to be with Disney right now. I know in the past, Disney has already been called out, especially from people like Alex Hirsch, in terms of their disingenuousness of their support for the LGBTQ plus community. But oh man, we are going to see so many posts of Disney trying to say that they're inclusive and they're supportive. But then they'll be constantly reminded of how Bob Chapek and the company wants nothing to do with the Don't Say Gay bill and let that slide. So I'm just going to say right now, like, maybe Bob Chapek didn't want to do anything because he's going to get a major tax break given to him by DeSantis and all those other Republican politicians. But whatever tax break he's getting now for letting the Don't Say Gay bill slide, it's going, like, that's not going to be enough to cover the massive losses he's going to get in the long run because he lost the LGBTQ plus community. This is going to be something that will really hurt Disney in the future, not just in terms of a PR situation, but this is also going to financially hurt them as well. Don't expect people rushing into the Disney stores and buying all those different pride merchandise that they would have either at Disneyland or anything like that, because yeah, the community knows that Disney is not on their side. At least not with Bob Chapek, that Disney is. All right, so with that said, now it is time I'd like to go into the chat wall, and I want to go and ask you all, how do you feel regarding the whole situation with Disney ignoring the Don't Say Gay bill? I really want to know what your thoughts on this, especially if you are someone from the LGBTQ plus community. I would love to have your thoughts on this. Okay, let's see what we got here. I'm going to be very blunt. Bob Chapek is an idiot. The problem with Chapek is that he puts profits over any benefits, progressive or bigoted. It might sound harsh, but he really needs to be let go. At the time I am typing this, shareholders are really unhappy with Bob Chapek's business decisions and the direction he's taking with the company. He may not be the worst CEO compared to Bobby Kotick, but his leadership running the Walt Disney Company may probably ran its course. Yeah, and I mean, there have been a lot of rumors and there have been a lot of speculations that there are so many people, including shareholders, that are extremely unhappy with Bob Chapek. I wouldn't 100% confirm that this is true, but so far with how things are looking with Bob Chapek, I'm just going to say right now, like, I don't think even Bob Iger has this much bad PR with how he is running, with how he ran the Walt Disney Company. And I'm just going to say right now, like, if this is going to set the precedence of how things are going to be with Bob Chapek, I can imagine that things might not last long for Bob at Disney. Like, I know that we are currently in a situation where if it's not going to be Bob Chapek that would run Disney, who would be next? Like I know, even when Bob Chapek, when Bob Iger was looking for like a successor, he also had a very hard time, and it was a very difficult decision to the point where like he only picked Bob Chapek because, well, there were just no other options of who could do so. But at that point, honestly, like if Bob Chapek is a problem and is keeping Disney away from making money, then yeah, eventually he's got to go. Let's see now. Seriously, Bob Chapek is making a fool of himself by not saying anything about the Don't Say Gay bill, and yet his response is just a big dough. It's a good thing that Bob Iger goes up against Trump and has a big heart for the people working for him. I see a lot of people in the chat were saying that they give Michael Eisner an apology and that they should start a Save Disney campaign again. Seriously, Bob Chapek, you gotta wake up and do something about it. Exactly. And especially considering the fact that, like, the Walt Disney Company is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that is within a heavily capitalist country. And by that point, they have no choice but to be involved with politics, considering that they do have a significant amount of political power, debatably more so than many other states out there or many people who are currently working in the federal government. So yeah, like Disney has no choice but to be involved with power in politics, considering that they are a very legitimately powerful political entity, rather if they like it or not. But I mean, hey, that's the capitalist system for you. The richer and wealthier that you are, the more influence you can have in politics. Let's see. Excuse my language, but I need to say this. Fuck Ron DeSantis and the whole Don't Say Gay bill. Overall, I thought this is just so upsetting. As someone who has loved Disney pretty much all of my life, seeing the company literally doing nothing to help the LGBTQ plus community really is frustrating. You gotta love the irony too when Chapek says that he wants more inclusivity in the content that Disney has, yet they can't have a single prominent or fully LGBTQ plus character in any of their animated films. Oh yeah, it's so massively hypocritical. And I mean, followers of Alex Hirsch and people who have worked on Disney television animation shows, like, they know the stories of how they can't include a gay character as much as they want to because of the fact that that Disney would always censor them by saying, oh, you can't do that because China and Russia would just not like that and stuff like that. Like, time and time again, like, it's only just like small steps at a time that we just see characters becoming gay. Like, even at that, like, currently, the most recent and most prominent animated gay character that we have is Katie Mitchell from The Mitchells vs. the Machines. And even at that, it's just that one little line at the end that gave out a little bit of a clue. Like, that could actually be something that it could be completely changed up when moved to another country or something like that. You know, it's just like, yeah, like, technically she is a gay character, but it's like just because of like a few small things that other countries can just change up so that they can make her straight. Let's see what else we have here. The moment you talked about Bob Chapek in early 2020, I kind of felt like my stomach sank. Iger was more or less harmless as a CEO. Chapek is an unknown to me, and the more I learn about him, the more uneasy I am. I would recommend another Save Disney campaign, but I don't know who could actually take the job. I remember on Twitter, someone suggests Alex Hirsch to be, but there are a number of issues with just that one suggestion. The corporation isn't just movie and TV, it's theme parks and a bunch of merch. Exactly. Like, honestly, the most that I could personally think of is maybe Josh D'Amaro, like the current guy who is running the Disney parks. Maybe he can do it, but even at that, it is still highly debatable. Or actually, you know, another one that I can think of, maybe Clark Spencer, like the guy who is currently the president of Disney Animation. Maybe he can be good for the job. I'm just saying maybe. Or maybe the president of Pixar as well. Maybe he could also do it, but I don't know. Like, I know there's a lot of qualifications and like people can be very iffy on that, so who knows? Really, it's just who knows. Let's see. Who else can we have? Okay. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. When it comes to the portrayal of the LGBTQ plus community, Disney has shown to be very poor at it, considering most of their LGBTQ plus characters are extremely minor, seemingly so that countries that don't support the LGBTQ plus community like China can just edit them out. By being apathetic about the situation, they enable those who want to attack the LGBTQ plus community. It seems way more suspicious now that they canceled Blue Sky's Nimona, since that movie was supposed to have 2 gay male leads. I don't know. I can't, like, I saw people before the show started talking about this, and I wouldn't necessarily say that, oh, Blue Sky completely shut down because of Nimona. I wouldn't really say that. That sounds a bit too much like a conspiracy right over there. I feel like it's more realistic on the factor of the pandemic, more so than the whole situation with Nimona, especially with the fact that their final feature films, well, they really just did not do well at the box office, especially when they are over budgeted and that they very much underperformed. They could not survive the conditions of the pandemic. All right, I think I'm gonna read one. Did I read this one? Okay, I'll read two more actually. Let's see here. With Bob Chapek and Disney being silent on a disgusting Florida bill that's going to be passed soon, it made me miss Bob Iger even more if he was still the CEO, despite many buyouts he has done. Many LGBTQ plus communities are getting unfair treatment that they don't deserve from what the far-right Republicans are doing right now, and yet Disney is doing nothing about it. Sure, other movie companies like Netflix are making profits over the LGBTQ plus too, but at least they care more about how Disney and Chapek is. Netflix, you say? Netflix, you say? I don't know. Have you seen Dave Chappelle's new special? Have you seen how Netflix has been treating Dave Chappelle? I'm just saying. The trans community would like to have a word with you on that. Okay, anyways, let's read our final comment here. It's my honest belief that the vast majority of the Republican Party has gone fully anti-humanity. I won't go to the Florida or California Disney parks forever, even for all the world's money. On a lighter note, your quick thoughts on Markiplier's Pass or Smash vid. I made a tier list of the female Pokemon characters on your Facebook fan club a few days ago. Ah, yes, that video. Oh my god, that was actually funny. Honestly, for me, honestly, Mark did have some interesting suggestions, but for me, one guarantee smash for me is Gardevoir. This might be a hot take. Gardevoir is the hottest Pokemon. Like, I would consider her like a full-on waifu. In fact, I think I even named like my shiny Gardevoir in Sword and Shield either waifu or Aurora. And plus the fact that I'm also very lucky enough to have a shiny Gardevoir in Pokemon Legends Arceus. So I'll probably go and change her name to either waifu or Aurora. But anyways, with that said, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Thank you all so much for joining me on this. I know some of the subject matter here was pretty heavy, but hey, we definitely had a lot of fun on this one. So tune in on the next episode, which, by the way, holy crap, it's going to be a big moment because that is actually going to be the 200th episode. So I better start thinking about some special things to do about that one. Who knows what we can do, but we'll see. I'll try to figure that out. I got a whole week, but with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening, and until next time, see you later, dudes.